James goes running to his boat, John, and he says to him, we've met the Messiah. Come, you've got to meet this guy. And Jesus looks at Peter and he says to him, you are Cephas, the stone, the rock. He sees something in Peter. And guys, very often we don't see stuff in ourselves. Other people will see it in us. That's why community and relationship is so important, because people will see things beyond your doubts and beyond your lack of belief in yourself. Okay, so catch number one. We know the story. Okay, the guys have been fishing all night. They come in. Jesus has been preaching on the shore. He says, guys, can I get in your boat? He preaches to the people. They go out and he says, put your nets out. It's a carpenter telling us what to do. This is, we're fishermen. We've been doing this for a long time. It's a nighttime thing. But interestingly, here we go, Luke 4. Put out into the deep, let down your nets for a catch. Simon answered, Master. That's important. We toiled all night and we took nothing, but at your word, I will let down the nets. And they get this great big catch. We know the story. The boats start to sink. They have to fill them all up and everything else. And when Simon Peter sees this, I'm going back to verse 8 in Luke 4. He fell down at Jesus' knees saying, depart from me, for I am a sinful man, O Lord. That's where we need to be. When we respond to that call comes from a realization that we need him, that we really, really need him. We sinful men, depart from us. And Jesus says to him, don't be afraid. From now on, you'll be catching men. That's in Luke. Matthew 4:19, he says the same thing, and he says, follow me. And the guys do that. They pack up everything. They pull their boats up, they fold up their nets, and they follow. Peter's married. He's got a wife, he's got a family. They pack up and they go with Jesus. So what happened there? There's a relationship. Come follow me. Be with me. Learn from me. Just watch. Watch and learn. See what I do. And he picked another 10 guys. Peter, James, and another 10 guys. And they were to work. These guys walked together, ate together, slept in the same place. They traveled together. They learned from one another. There was a community. He sent them out in pairs. Why not singly? Because they needed oaks to depend on. Why not in fours? Because then you get all sorts of factions and stuff going on in pairs. So the guys could get to know each other. So, I want to just very briefly, I've got a whole list of stuff here, but I want to very briefly give you a synopsis of Peter's life. Leader of the 12 disciples, Cephas, called to fish for people. His mother-in-law was healed. He was called to preach, brother of Andrew. He was present at the raising of the dead. He walked on the water. He identified Jesus as the Christ. He's also rebuked by Jesus for a lack of a heavenly perspective when that happened. He witnessed the transfiguration. His denial was predicted by Jesus. Judas's betrayal was predicted by Jesus too. There's a difference. There's a difference in attitude and response. Okay. He did some crazy stuff. Jumped in the water, cut off the ear of Malchus, and he denied Jesus. Okay. So Jesus trusts these guys. He gets John and James, John and Peter, to arrange a whole lot of stuff, particularly the Passover that evening meal, which was actually the Last Supper. And he's sitting next to him, and he says this to Peter. He says, I've prayed for you that your faith may not fail. And when you have turned again, do what? Strengthen your brothers. And in the New Living Translation, it says, when you've repented and turned to me again. He knows what's going to happen. He knows we don't have it all together. He knows we're going to blow it from time to time. Okay. So, why does he say that? Because of this. He says, I'll rather die first. And yet he denies him. And after this, Jesus is crucified. They go to the empty tomb. They don't see Jesus at that stage. Mary sees him. What's Peter's response? Sorry. I'm going fishing. But I've responded like that. I've been fishing. I've been fishing for many years. Okay, I thought I'd blown it. And I want to just share a few things in my life here. So when I was a youngster, and I shared this in one of our group chats, I was 15, 16 years old. I went to a youth group, just watching the time. I went to a youth group, and we had an older couple that was leading the group, and they were transferred by a business, and they left, and then they got a young couple in that were probably in their 20s, and they were really cool and trendy, and they were musos and whatever, and saved. And something happened in their life, and the guy that was leading it said to me, I was 16 years old, I was in grade 11, standard 9. I want you to take over. And I was a baby Christian, and I was in not a great place. And as I shared with the guys in there, my mates at school said, Brew, we know you. You've got it wrong, man. We know you. But those guys had seen something I didn't know was there. And I've had many guys in my life that have done that for me, that have seen things. And mate said, I want you to come and sit on the church council. It's like, it can't be right. It can't be. I want you to lead a home group. It can't be right. I want you to do this. They saw something that I didn't necessarily see. Or better put, I felt I was disqualified from. Why? Because I couldn't get it right. I kept trying to get it right. I gave my life when I was 13, 14 years old. Holy Spirit filled when I was about 14 or 15, all of those. But I kept blowing it. I wasn't a good boy. I thought I'd have this like magic transformation. It never happened. I didn't understand grace. And I thought I wasn't good enough. And I didn't want to let Jesus down, and I didn't want to be a hypocrite. So I went fishing for a long time. But Jesus never let go of me. And I had good mates that would invite me back to church. One of them invited me to this church when I just moved down from Joburg looking for a place to go, and he said, come and try my church. My now brother-in-law came one afternoon to my house. I'd been working in the garden, I was filthy, and he said, come to church. Those guys. Community, relationship. Okay, so I want to read something else here. Where are we? Let me just jump here. Okay. So, that was fire number 1. This is fire number 2. And catch number 2. Jesus resurrected. The guys have been out fishing. Same story. Haven't caught anything. Getting a huge catch. Jesus says to them, have you got any fish? I'll put it up on the board just now. No. Oh, yes. No. And then the abundance of catch. But he's already got fish. He's inviting these guys for breakfast. He's expecting them. He's cooking for them. He's actually waiting for Peter. He's got something to say. So, children, did you have any fish? No. Do the whole kind of thing. Peter doesn't recognize him immediately, but when he does, it's the Lord. And when Simon saw him, what does he do? He jumps in the water again. He's done this before. It didn't work out that well. But he wants to get there. He wants to get to Jesus. And we know the story. Do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? 3 times redeems him for the 3 denials. And then he says, follow me again. I want to quote from a guy called W. Meyer. He says, God doesn't wait for perfection before he partners with you. He bakes learning into the system. Trial and error are not failure, they are a formation. Even your stumbles are steps, because the Lord uses every misstep to realign your frame. God doesn't just observe your steps, he orders them. And that's going back to Psalm 37. The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delights in his way. Though he fall, he shall not be utterly cast down, for the Lord upholds him with his right hand. He doesn't just allow failure, he redeems it. So he makes men by restoring broken men. Jesus rebuilt Peter. He rebuilt him with grace, and he gave him a mission. Remember when he called him Cephas, my stone, the rock. He already knew what Peter's purpose was going to be. And after this conversation, he says to him, you are the rock, and I'm going to build my church on you. This guy that was broken and doubtful and weeping because he'd betrayed, he'd denied Jesus. He disqualified himself. I'm going to build my church on you. When you fail, it isn't final, guys. It's a divine instruction, a recalibration point. He upholds you with his right hand. Strength, justice, and favor. And then, okay, God begins with obedience, not perfection. Growth takes time, even in apostles. And Morley says in his book, if God didn't use failed men, he wouldn't have anybody to use. If he didn't use messed up men, he wouldn't have anybody to use. So there's a couple of things here. So Mary sees Jesus. But the angel says to go and tell the disciples and Peter to go to Galilee, I'm coming. And then he says, behold, I'm sending the promise of my, this is not talking, behold, I'm sending the promise of my Father upon you, but stay in the city until you are clothed with power from on high. The angel tells Mary to specifically tell Peter to go to Galilee. Growth begins with obedience, not perfection. They went to Galilee. Third fire. Upper room. I think they were very surprised. They didn't know what to expect. I don't think they expected this. And after this, Peter preaches boldly. And there's a verse somewhere that says about Jesus, and he said, and there were about 500 men with him. These were his followers. He had 500 followers, maybe 800. This is the thing. Morty says God didn't use flawed men, he wouldn't use any more. Jesus still calls and leads flawed followers. If we comply with his corrections along the way, we are discipled. And when we disciple, we're able to disciple. So let's go to the third. That's the third fire. Here's the third catch. He speaks, he preaches. And those who accepted his message were baptized, and about 3,000 were added to that number that night. And later on, they were arrested, and they do this, and they preach again, and there's almost 5,000, another 2,000 added by this guy who denied Jesus, who sank when he got out the boat. Acts 4:17 says this. Now when they saw the fullness of Peter and John, or the boldness of Peter and John, they perceived that they were uneducated common men. They were astonished, and they recognized that they had been with Jesus. Go back to that verse again. 2 Timothy 2 verse 2. Entrust it to faithful men and teach others also. And I love this, and Craig Mack, when he was here the other day, used this, and I was going to use it anyway. But everybody needs a Paul, a Barnabas, and a Timothy. Okay, a Paul, someone to, I can't even read that here, build into our lives. A mentor. Someone to show us the ropes, teach us, show us how to do this thing. A Barnabas, an associate, somebody who's alongside us. And I'm so grateful for my Barnabases. There are a few of them sitting in this room. I love Peter because he asked tough questions. You know, what's it going to look like, Lord? Where are you going? Can we go there? He asked some tough questions. We're able to thrash these questions out amongst us. We're not necessarily being with Jesus, but we're with him because we're able to have these conversations with men who love Christ and who build us up and who challenge us and who question us. And then an apprentice, someone that we can teach, someone that we can carry that to, someone that we can grow, someone whose life we can invest in. It's got to happen in community. We need to be that, and we need that. And it doesn't need to be one Barnabas, one Paul, one Timothy. It could be many, many guys in a different phase of your life. And it doesn't matter how old you are, or how young you are, how mature you are, or how new you are in your faith. You can be one of all of those, and you need one of all of those. Guys, we can do this. You can do this. Not one of you is disqualified. If you've responded to the call, get equipped. Be sent. Go out there. We must do this. Thank you.